Welcome to Behind the BNB podcast, where we go beyond the bookings and take you inside the real stories, strategies, and struggles behind every Airbnb success. I'm your host, Steph Murphy, and each week we will sit down with real hosts, industry experts, and inspiring guests to uncover what really goes on behind the scenes of short-term rentals. Whether you're just getting started, scaling your property portfolio, or simply love a good story, you'll find practical tips, honest conversations, and a few laughs along the way. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's go behind the B&B. Hi everyone, I want to say a special welcome to you if this is your first time watching Behind the B&B. Today I'm so excited to have Joanne Gardiner from London for those who don't know where London is, United Kingdom. And Joanna is the founder and owner of Lux Local Homes. So hi Joanna, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'm so just excited to get into this and for people to hear your story and, how you got started in Airbnb. And so let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it.
So we were only talking just before about your sort of strategy and your approach to this because you're a little bit different, where we've got some students who use a rental arbitrage strategy. You actually own the properties that you Airbnb. So do you want to sort of start off by talking a bit about how you decided to do that and how you got started, what inspired you to turn your properties into Airbnbs?
Sure. Well, I've had property for quite a long time. I bought my first property when I was in my early 20s, so I'm now sort of mid 40s, so it's a while ago now. And I used to do long-term rentals, and I've done that for a lot of different strategies, which some have worked, some haven't over the years. Some have been more enjoyable than others. And a very good friend of mine who's actually on the program, the GPWM program, phoned me up one day and said,
Should we do a shout out for her? Shout out to Pippa.
Yeah, Pippa Nixon Green. Yeah, amazing. One of my best friends. Amazing girl, amazing businesswoman. And she phoned me up and said, your property, one of my properties is in quite a nice central London location. She said, we're quite interested in your property for a holiday let. And I thought, I'd quite like to do that. I have been thinking about it for a few years, but just not bitten the bullet really. She told me about GPWN. This is obviously a shout out to GPWN because I don't think I would have done it really without the course, in all honesty. Mm-hmm. And I did the course and it inspired me to take the plunge.
That's amazing. I think it's so interesting that Pippa approached you and almost sort of sparked the idea for you. But you did say you were thinking about it, weren't you?
Yeah, I discussed it with her a few years ago and we were sort of chatting about it. But then she phoned me up one day and we said, Joey, what about Wellington Row, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, no, I think now's the time. This is a kick up the arse that I needed to take the plunge because I was just faffing around, and not doing it. And I think for me, I need community. I like community to make stuff happen. I do a lot of solo work. So the community of GPWN was really attractive if I could join that and then sort of get my hand held a little bit along the way.
I really love your background. So I'm wondering if you can sort of talk about that because you said you do a lot of solo work. So your background is pretty interesting as well. Are you okay to share, what you were doing before and kind of what you do even now, like whilst running your Airbnbs as well?
Yeah, well, I started off, actually, it's how I met Pippa. We went to drama school and I was an actress in my 20s. And then in my early 20s, I was like, God, I'm just not going to make any money out of this, unless I hit the big time, which was not going to happen at that point. So I bought property. I had a small lump sum of money, invested it in a property in Southeast London, in not a very nice area, but I did it up, flipped it, and then did a couple of those really, and managed to build a really small, very small, modest portfolio of only a few properties, but it was enough to keep me going. And then I gave up acting, but the property still remained buzzing in the background. And I think I just never thought I was really a property person. I thought, I'm a creative. I went and did other things, trained to be a Pilates instructor. And that's what I do now on the side. But it's sort of recently that I've got more into the property side of things and thought, actually, I think it's probably getting a bit older as well. Having
Mm,
confidence in myself from a business perspective that I can
mm,
take risks
yeah.
and be a bit more strategic with money and what I do with
Mm,
it. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at. But it's solo working. I guess as an actor, you have your agent, but you don't. You're often sort of out there trudging the streets, going to auditions on your own. It can be quite. It's not glamorous. It's definitely not glamorous.
mm, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I work better in a team environment. So I definitely feel like being part of the GPWN team, and I do feel like it is like that. Hopping on a call every day, you can hop on a call, and there's a group of people there that are all doing the same thing that you're doing. You can ask questions. It's really been fantastic.
That's brilliant. Yeah, there's nothing more powerful than that community and that spirit of community where everyone is on the same page and can bounce ideas around and all the rest of it. And I loved how you mentioned, you touched on risk, you know. So do you want to like talk a little bit about that? You were saying stepping out and actually doing this and setting up your properties as Airbnbs. It is a little bit of a risk, but there can be rewards. So can we, like, for people who are watching this podcast, some of them will be like, oh, well, I own properties, and people are thinking, should I turn them into Airbnbs or, play it safe and maybe just keep it long term. But do you want to share a little bit about how you've managed to do that? So, obviously after doing a bit of the coaching, like you said, you feel like you've had your hand held a little bit and you've stepped out. How did you actually take that first initial step with turning your actual property? Did you have a tenant in there? Did you have to get them out first? What was the sort of starting point?
Yeah, I did. I had a tenant. I had a long-standing tenant actually in one of the properties who was fantastic. There was lots of changes, government legislation changes that I was thinking, right, okay, now's the time to get out of long-term rentals. Um, yeah, I don't know really. I just gave her notice. She wanted to buy her own house anyway, so that worked out well. I didn't feel too bad about that.
Let's talk.
And then I
Which
just
property was that, by the way? Because you've got the one in Suffolk and then the one in
yeah,
Shoreditch as
this is
well.
the one in Shoreditch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, And to be honest, like I just got really excited about it. I got really
Mm.
excited about getting my hands on that house and doing it up and making it look beautiful. I don't know if you know, but I mean, I'm really into interiors and
You're
I
very
get,
good. We'll have some images. We'll get the guys to put some images up. So while we're talking, so everyone can see, this stunning Shoreditch property that you've put, yeah, so much love and effort into in turning it into what it is now. So I think it's stunning.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of love's gone into that, lots of time. So yeah, I just got excited about doing that and excited once, I made the decision I was going to do it. I just set up the business, sorted out all the compliance stuff, lots of research,
Hmm.
and started planning how I wanted the space to look.
Yeah. And for people watching who are like, okay, it's not that straightforward, can we touch on, sort of some ideas that you would give to someone who's, thinking, okay, they're going to turn the current property they own into an Airbnb. How did you set it up? Like what sort of programs did you use or, images or magazines did you look at or platforms, and how did you pull your basically this design and this style together for this property?
I think, first of all, I always look at a property from the age of the property. So this is an old Victorian conversion split level. It's got lots of light. So I always think about how much light there is in the property. And then I guess I always try and make my spaces calm. And then I come up with some sort of color palette. And I'm always always using Pinterest for ideas. I guess like everyone else, I'm always looking at
Yeah.
Instagram, my interior
Pinterest is great. Yep.
accounts I'm obsessed
Hmm.
with.
Hmm.
Just obsessed with like just interior shops and just looking at beautiful things and nature as well, which sounds very cheesy, but we live in the country now and just walking out in nature and getting inspiration
Not.
from there.
It's not cheesy at all. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, especially to draw inspiration from. I love that. I love your process.
Yeah. And
Mm.
texture is always really important. So I think about what sort of textures I want in the property. So doing London was very difficult to looking at the country property in Woodbridge that we have, completely different vibe. I've done this quite twee, quite floral,
Mm.
very calm, but lots of earthy sort of shades. So yeah, I mean, I think about it. I get obsessed with it, if I'm honest.
It's
Every
good
room.
though because it stands out, doesn't it? I think for me, you know, having also got a background in this and doing it even now with a property that we're working on, it's important to take all these things into consideration, you know, because it's about standing out from
Yeah,
potentially a saturated market, depending where you're located,
absolutely.
you know.
And
And I know,
pictures are really important, aren't they? And
yeah,
it's the things that people look at first are the pictures, and if they pop and they look amazing, and also the little touches, and
that's
people
it.
really notice that.
That's it. It all counts towards those bookings and those reviews, you know, which we know they really matter. So,
Yeah.
how how has that gone for you? You know, when you did set these properties up and you listed them, did you put them on, was it Airbnb? What other platforms did you use? How sort of what was the next step for you to get these properties
So
up and running?
so there was quite a few practical challenges with these two properties because they're old properties.
Mm,
So there was quite a lot of we had to try and fit a smart lock on a really old door and things like that, and fixing lots of old Victorian steps and trying to convert those. I don't recommend that, but we just got them listed on VRBO, or I got them listed on VRBO, Airbnb, Booking.com, and expected to get a lot from Airbnb, but got loads from Booking.com. That's where I got them listed first. And then I got them listed up on some more long-term OTAs. So Plum Guide, we were on Plum Guide, which I was really proud to get onto there
I remember
because
that
they,
being a really lovely website. It was like almost like what would you say? Like curated properties, like very much a lot of time was maybe gone into these properties in terms of the interior design because they all
yeah,
looked, yeah.
they
Oh,
look
that's
amazing. These
amazing.
properties, I know, I was so pleased to
Yeah.
get on
Because
there.
you can't just list them. There's certain criteria that isn't there that you have to sort of meet before you can have your property on that platform, right?
Well, I'm not sure exactly
From
what the criteria
memory.
was. We just had to send
Yeah.
photos in, and then I think someone came to have a look, excuse me, in London. Yeah, and we
Mm,
managed to get that on there. So we've had some lovely bookings from Plum Guide.
yeah,
And
that's
there's obviously other
amazing.
ones like Comfy Workers, and I can't remember off the top of my head, there's quite a few.
There's a few.
Yeah.
And then for those people who are like, how do you have them listed across all these platforms and manage all the bookings? What sort of channel manager is what we usually use? What are you using?
I use uplisting.
So uplisting, and
Yeah.
that works well for you.
Yes, it does. I definitely couldn't do it without that
Hmm.
because it just pulls all the bookings together so you don't get cross bookings or any confusion. And it organizes and it streamlines a lot of the messages. I mean, it was definitely a challenge to get my head around it to start off with because I'm not really a techie person, but it was a
But you've
fun
done it.
challenge.
Yeah,
I've done it exactly. It's just
done
one of
it.
those challenges, and you just have to crack on, don't you, and get on with it.
That's it. You just figure it out, and yeah, and once you do, then you're on your way. So that's yeah, that's pretty good. And I remember we in our previous like sort of chat before we jumped on, we were talking about price labs as well, and that's where you kind of price your Airbnbs or your properties accordingly. Do you want to share a little bit about that and sort of you had a few challenges with that initially as well?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have had some challenges with price labs. I've sat on Mohammed's call time and time again and just been like, oh my God. But again, I've got my head around it now.
Hmm.
Um, I think a lot of it is about just believing in yourself that you can just do these things. But Price Labs is excellent once you get your head around it.
I
And it
think for
obviously
those who
fluctuates.
have, I think those who have no idea what Price Labs is should probably
Oh,
explain that a
okay.
little bit. And I think you would probably explain it really well.
Oh gosh. It's a dynamic pricing tool. So it does loads of things. You list or you connect your properties to Price Labs, and it compares your property with hundreds of other properties in the surrounding area. And it sets the price based on an average of what other people are doing, depending on whether you're low scale, mid scale, upscale. it fluctuates prices. So, for example, Beyonce is playing, I think, in June at some point. So my prices have been rocketed up because of it, because of that, to sort of meet that
Mm.
rise. Which again, I wouldn't necessarily have had time or thought about. It does it all automatically for you, which is great. You set your base rate, your minimum rate, and yeah, and then it does its thing, which
Mm.
is glorious.
I'm just still stuck on the fact that Beyonce is going to be there in June and
Yeah,
how much of a killing you're going to make
yeah,
on that property. Because
yeah.
how many bedrooms is it again?
It's two
A two
double
bedroom.
bedroom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And pretty much central, you know.
Zone one, yeah, Shoreditch. It is in a good location.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done well with that one.
Oh, I'm excited for you. Yeah, that's only a couple months away, so that's great. That's going to
Yeah,
do really well.
that was a good
Okay.
booking.
Yeah. Thanks for explaining what Price Labs is. I hope that anyone watching, yeah, can get their head around that and understand. There's all these tools out there that are just so helpful that, if it wasn't sometimes. I remember when we started, it was all things that we had to kind of work out along the way.
Oh yeah.
Because we did a little short course, but then we kind of just ran off and just got started, but didn't really know about price labs, didn't really know about channel managers, and that's
Wow,
if
how
you
did you
just
do
had
it?
we just figured it out. You just had to do your
Yeah.
research because you were like, there's got to be a better way to manage these things because we were 2018 when we started, and it's like, I think, yeah, we just did our research because it was like, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to
Yeah.
manage, multiple platforms and all the rest of it. So we just figured it out. But I think
Well
that's where, we're so passionate about this coaching course and giving people all the tools that they need, and you just get to know, hopefully just we're giving you pretty much everything you need to just get up and running and
absolutely.
start making a profit.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
there's so many things that I learned about, so many apps and tools that you can use that I think, oh gosh, there must be a way to make this easier, and there usually is. And you chat to other people, or always on Daryl's call on a Friday or a Wednesday. I just learn
Shout out
so much
Daryl. We
from other
love Dazza.
people. Yeah, love him. He's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. But you're so right. There's always something out there, and I feel like there's always something new coming out as well. It's just about staying in the loop with things, and just working out the best way for you to manage your business, because this is a business, isn't
Yeah,
it? At the end of the day,
it
do you
is.
have do you have a virtual assistant at all to kind of help with your guest experience, communications, and that sort of thing?
Do you know what? I don't, and that's
Mm.
something that I really could do with.
Mm.
And the next sort of stage for me is to build the business.
Hmm.
I've got to this point now, and I've just built a website, so that was sort of one task. And I think once I acquire more properties, then I'll start that process. I mean, I've sort of done the research on that, and I know how to do the process, but not just yet. But I think that they're essential once you start building your portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree
Yeah,
more. And this is why I love this podcast, because Joe, you've only been in the program how long now? Remind me again.
I think it's 10 months.
10 months. So,
Yeah,
yeah, this is, behind the BNB. We're talking to students who are just getting started, students who've maybe been with us for a year or maybe 2 years. And I love that, as you said, you're 10 months in. And so you're still pretty much at the beginning stages of building this out.
yeah. I think that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, I think it does take time. And I think that's okay. If that's one thing I would say is just to go at
Yeah.
your own pace. Like I'm someone that's a bit bull in a china shop, and I was like, oh, why isn't this happening quicker? Why? How can I make this, happen faster? But actually, it happened at the pace that it needed to happen at,
Yeah.
and it happened along with my learning. And I think that's really important for anyone just setting up. Just take your time,
Mm. And learn
and
everything that you need to
yeah,
learn and become confident. Yeah, as you
yeah,
said. Yeah. Yeah, and especially, you said you weren't really much of a techie person, but it's things that you've taken your time to learn and understand, and then you're able to kind of just run with it, really.
Yeah, and it's great now to feel like, oh, actually, I can just hop on up listing or Price Labs and like tap away and feel really confident with what I'm doing. Whereas, I mean,
Yeah.
a year ago, it terrified me.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I remember looking at it as well and just thinking, oh my word, how do you even work this
Yeah,
thing? But yep,
graphs.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of that. But it's all data
Ugh,
that is, oh, it's so crucial
it's
to
so
running a
crucial.
successful Airbnb business. So, okay, let's talk about, are there some challenges, something that you want to share, like maybe one of the biggest challenges you've experienced with setting up your business?
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges was, I mean, it sounds small, but was fitting a smart lock to a Banham door. It was a
Mm,
nightmare. I've got a practical
really?
husband. Oh, that must have taken us like 3 months to figure out, and in the end, we figured out we
No,
couldn't do it, so we figured out something else. It's just
months.
like that was a stress because I had all these old Banham locks. Sorry, it's a bit detailed, a bit boring, and we didn't
You
want to
might
get
have
rid of
to
these
put
very
like an example of the
expensive.
screen of what a Banham lock is, because I'm trying to think, what is that? You just said it's a really old, it was like an old door, because it's like a, not
It's an old
heritage listed
Victorian
building,
house,
old
yeah, and it's
Victorian. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a super old door, but the Banham locks were very expensive when they were bought years ago, and we didn't want to lose those. But we wanted a smart lock because everyone had a smart lock, and I thought that's what you
Hmm.
had to do. Anyway, in the end, we went with a thing called Key Nest, which is where you
Yeah.
hold the key in like a local shop or a local area, and the guest goes to collect it. You release a code 10 minutes before check-in. And I was like, oh my goodness, we can't have that. That's just not going to work. It's not a nice experience for guests to have to do that. But actually, it's been absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And
Also,
we've
you
got a
did
good
end up
relationship.
going with Key Nest after
We
not
have
being
because we
able
just
to get the smart lock. Yeah.
we couldn't sort it out.
Oh,
But that's been fine. I think the biggest challenge for me, and it has been a learning curve, and one that I'm happy to say I feel like I've grown through, is guests.
mm,
80%, 90% of guests are lovely.
yeah.
Um, 10% are not. It can be a
Every
little bit
now and
challenging.
again.
Yeah,
Yes.
now and again, you get the odd one, and I think it's knowing how to handle that with grace and kindness, and to not take things too personally and be professional at the same time. But know perhaps when guests are perhaps demanding things that are a little bit out of what they should be expecting. We had a
Mm,
terrible guest over Christmas
mm.
um, that caused a leak. It was just there was lots of issues, but it got a
They
little bit
caused a
nasty. But
leak.
it was a great learning curve in the end.
Did you say they caused a leak? How did they do that?
So we've got like a freestanding bath in the bathroom. This old Victorian bath is beautiful, and I think what they did, what we sort of figured out, was that they wanted to move the bath a little bit so that it looked out of the window and it positioned out of the window because we've got this
Oh,
big
come
window that looks out onto
on.
this roof
Are
terrace.
you serious?
I know, and they pulled it, and so the drains pulled apart, and then water was just flooding. I mean, it wasn't a huge amount of water, but it caused them a lot of distress. They were
Mm.
very upset. I think they're American. They hadn't been to an old property before. They're like, oh, this doesn't happen in our properties at home. I was like, well, it is an old building. Um,
First of all, you don't go moving baths around.
I know it's
Just start off.
bonkers, isn't it? Me and my husband were just like, what
Oh
on
my
earth is
God.
going on? But this was all on Christmas Day, and it went all over Christmas.
Oh no.
Um,
Was this just last year?
yeah, yeah. I think it's just it's being prepared for those times, and whatever we did was not good enough. Try to offer lots of compensation and helping out with various things, sending them things that they needed, but nothing was good enough, and it was just became quite a challenging experience. But they're a small sprinkling of people. The majority of people are great and really
Yeah.
lovely.
And that's what you got to focus on. Every now and
You've
then
got to
you will get
focus on that.
that challenge. I feel
Yeah, and
like
it's
that
a
was,
good
yep,
challenge.
yep,
Yeah.
that was me today, but we are not going to talk about me. Okay. This is not about me and my armchairs. It's okay.
Yeah,
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 it's just crazy to think, they caused the problem and then you did
yeah.
everything that you could, but you just have to learn and grow, whatever you can learn from that really. I'm not quite sure, but it's just more so how you handle that and being
Exactly that.
proud of how you know,
Yes.
sorted that
exactly.
situation out. Yeah.
I think
In the
that's it.
end, what happened in the end? Did they give a good
Um,
review or?
sh- um, there was quite a lot of abusive messages that I was sent on
Oh
Booking.com, and
no.
Booking.com saw this, and they said, "Oh, don't worry, we're going to block her from leaving a review because it looks like she's, yeah,
Okay.
very very upset about something." Um,
Mm.
and then she sort of threatened court action. I mean, it was crazy. It
Oh
was
my
crazy.
goodness.
Yeah,
Just
because we
okay.
ruined her Christmas or something like that. So, um,
Never
yeah,
mind yours, but okay.
yeah, exactly.
These are just some of the realities that,
Mm.
we're talking
Yeah,
about
they are,
real
and they're
hosts. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It is a good learning curve, and I'm pleased. And I'm actually sort of look back at those experiences and think, well, I've definitely grown. Luckily, my husband's quite calm, um,
Mm.
and he's always like, just okay. We'll just work through it. It's okay. Just sort of approaches it all with a bit of a nice laissez-faire approach, which is helpful.
Mm. Mm.
So I
That's
can be a bit
good.
stressed. Yeah.
That's good. He's that way. Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah. Oh well. And then you've had some. You've achieved Superhost. I think I saw that somewhere as well, didn't you? At one point.
Yeah, we've got Superhost on Airbnb now.
Yeah. So how for anyone listening who's like, I want to attain that. How did you actually attain Superhost?
That's a really good question. I think you have to get however many five-star reviews, no
Mm-hmm.
cancellations, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't cancel on a potential guest. I'd have
Yeah,
to
because
check
I'm not
on
going to
that.
lie. If we're ever needing to book an Airbnb, I do look at Superhost
Yes.
Airbnbs first. So it does put you a little bit above the rest of the Airbnb. So it's definitely something to, work towards. Have you
Yeah.
achieved that for both?
Yes. Yeah. I think we
Amazing.
have now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. So, okay, so you've got your properties in Suffolk and in Shoreditch. Have you got plans? Is there anything in the pipeline? Are you looking to expand and grow the portfolio?
Yeah, we are. I- I'm looking to do a lot of co-hosting around this area where we are at the moment. So I
Hmm.
think co-hosting is going to work better.
And that's just to be clear,
Uh,
that's in Suffolk, right?
we're in Suffolk, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It's very seasonal here. It's very
Hmm.
busy in the summer, and then it quietens down in the winter. But there are a lot of people here that have holiday homes that want them managed. So we are talking to a few people at the moment, in different locations around the Suffolk coast.
That's great.
Um, And actually, I'm looking at another strategy as well, property strategies with another landlord in the area who manages HMOs. So I'm looking a little bit into that. HMOs are really big in this area.
Oh, yes. Like
Yeah,
UK, massive.
yeah,
Yeah, we
massive.
know we know quite a few people who have done so well in the HMO space. To name a few off the top of my head, people like I don't know if you've heard of B Space. Jade,
No.
her name's Jade McNeil. It's like shout out to Jade. I don't know if she'll ever watch this podcast, but she's someone who I've always admired in that space. She's done incredibly well. Another guy named Craig Sullivan. He does student HMOs, but I imagine in Suffolk it's more if you're looking into that, it's probably more so working professionals. Am I right?
Definitely working professionals, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a new
yeah.
business park that's just been built around the corner. There's lots of visiting surgeons, lots of carers.
Mm,
Um, yeah, there's a university, so there's a big market for it around here, and
mm,
up in Felixstowe, which is another sort of town on the coast. So we're sort of
mm,
tentatively looking at that.
mm,
But again, I've got a great team in London, so really I'd like to build in London more than anywhere else because we've sort of got
mm.
everything in place.
And that your
It's just
team being your cleaning team, your maintenance team, so they're
yeah,
pretty solid. Yeah.
yeah, they're pretty solid and reliable, and I trust them, and that feels like a really important thing to have.
Can we talk a little bit about that? How did you find them, and how have you built, yeah, a team where you are in that position where you feel like you can trust them and you've got a good relationship with them? Because that is also something that's quite
It can be quite tricky.
important.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, your cleaners are your eyes and ears, aren't they? So they're going into the
Hmm.
property. We don't live near the London property, so we have to trust them. The communication with them is key.
Hmm.
Um, how did I find out about them? Again, it was through a friend on the program that shared their details with me. Um, and then I got in touch with them, and they were just great. Communication was great. I mean, I'm really big on just sort of keeping up to date on things. I like communication to be clear, and they send me photos every day. They send me updates. They're on WhatsApp 24 hours a day. Um, yeah, I
Wow.
just
Where
think they're a
did you
great,
find these guys?
great company. Wow. Yeah,
I'll give it all away.
it was through someone on the program. Yeah,
Yeah.
friend on the
Yeah, that's
program.
helpful.
And then the maintenance team is just, I mean, to be honest, maintenance is always a little bit of a up and down process,
Hmm.
especially in London. Contractors can be quite unreliable, but we found a few people that put us first. And although not the other day when I had to go and fix that toilet,
I
I think you
saw
saw the
that.
photo.
I was like,
Oh,
what
I
happened
had to fix
there? The
the
seat
toilet.
came off.
Well, they broke the seat, and then oh my goodness, and I had to go up there. And anyway, I won't go into the details, but it wasn't
Oh
nice.
no.
That day, my handyman wasn't around, so I had to go up there, drag a friend up there, and get
I'm
underneath the toilet. So be
so
prepared for that.
proud of you. I'm so
Thank
proud of
you.
you because I have done that before, but it wasn't, it was just here at home, just with our toddler toilet training. And those little family seat things. We don't need to
Oh
go
yeah, the
deep
little
about
ones.
toilets, but yeah, the one with the little one for him. So I just I couldn't find anyone to do it for me
Just
as
roll up your
soon as I
sleeve.
wanted it done. Yeah, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the equivalent of B&Q here in Australia is Bunnings. So I just went one day, just asked someone, I need one of those toilets with the two-seat things, and I was like, how hard is it to set up myself? He's like, there's the instructions, love, go for it. I was like,
Crack
okay.
on, yeah,
And I
yeah.
did it. And I was like, we can do anything. We
I know.
are
This
women,
is
hear
it.
us roar.
Absolutely. My friend was like, "We don't need a handyman. We don't need anyone
Right.
to do. Come on, we can do it." And it was such a good sense of achievement, actually, but not something I want to be doing on a regular basis.
No, definitely not. Yeah. It's like once is enough. And was that your
Yeah.
cleaner that I saw in the photo with you?
No, that was a
That
friend of
lady.
mine. It was a
Oh,
friend. Yeah.
oh, lovely. What a lovely friend.
Yeah, she was lovely. She's very
Yeah.
practical, unlike myself. So yeah, the team are really important. We've got a good
Absolutely.
team there, and actually, it's been a struggle to find and build a similar team in Suffolk. I thought it'd be a lot easier, but it's not. So yeah,
Mm.
unexpected twists and turns.
But it's like you said, it makes good business sense to build and grow the portfolio where you've got a team that you can trust. A good solid team
Definitely.
there. And yeah, so are you looking at anything else in Shoreditch or?
Not necessarily in Shoreditch. I mean, we want to stick to Zone One for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we are looking at some places in, I want to say Chelsea, but yeah, I think Chelsea and actually
Chelsea's
Elephant and
nice.
Castle as well. There's
Okay,
quite a few
yeah.
new builds that have popped up there.
Really? I mean, I'm like, where was the space for that in Elephant Castle? Because I remember driving through there and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I
they've
guess.
knocked a lot of it down, haven't they? And they've rebuilt
Oh,
it
that makes sense. Yeah.
and thrown a
Yeah.
lot of money at it, so it's a lot not, it's a nicer area. But at the
Mm.
moment, just splitting my time between the two. So hopefully, we'll watch this space.
Mm. I'm excited to see what you end up doing and what's next for you as well. So that's always fun and exciting. I I was also going to ask, so I want to talk about co-living as well, but I'm like, no, this is behind the B&B because it's like, okay, why not? Why don't we talk about that? Because it's like, you know what, you got to be open to other strategies as well, right? So, what sort of co-living options are there in Suffolk, for example? Because you said you were looking at that, and is it
Co-hosting?
co-hosting,
Yeah.
HMO? Yeah, sorry, it's co-living in
Oh, what
Australia.
HMO?
Yeah, sort of the HMO model.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah. So why the interest in that strategy as well? We can talk a little bit about that.
Um, I think it's attractive purely because it's the majority of what people are doing in this area, and HMOs
Mm.
are all year round busy around here for some reason.
Hmm.
Well, the reason is as we sort of explained before. Also, I like the idea of buying a property and having, well, one, having my fingers in a few pies, because I think
Hmm.
nowadays you need your fingers in a few pies.
Hmm.
Um,
Can't have your eggs all in one basket. Yeah.
no, indeed. And I think when you buy a property with an HMO and develop it into an HMO, the property accrues over time in value, so you're earning money that way.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it just seems to make sense. I don't know really why else.
Mm.
We know a lot of HMO landlords in the area as well.
That's
I
always
think the
good.
one thing that sort of slightly put me off was the I'm really into the interior thing, but I've seen some
Mm.
incredible HMOs around here, really high quality, really
Hmm.
beautiful,
Hmm.
landlords that are providing excellent spaces for people to live in, really high standard, that
Yeah.
really care about the tenants
Yeah.
and that their quality of living, which I think is really important.
It really is
Um,
because I've seen some shockers out there.
yeah, there
If we're
are.
being honest and speaking
Yeah,
candidly, and I think it's just it's bad. I mean, we can say the same about Airbnbs, and that's where
yeah,
people just need to understand. It's like if you want to, make a business out of something, do it well, do it quality, do it. You
mm,
don't always have to spend a lot to make something look decent, but think about the person that's going to be staying there, and would you stay there? And I think that's
yeah,
always a good approach as well. If you're looking at it in from that perspective, and I mean, it's good to hear that you've seen a lot better HMOs and that you do actually know quite a few landlords. I think that's always
mm,
helpful. So I
yeah.
imagine I don't know how much you know about HMOs, but are you sort of, doing your research, asking the questions, exploring that as a
Yeah,
strategy more so too, or
I am.
alongside? Yeah.
I used to have HMOs in London. Probably about 6 years ago, I sold three,
Oh, did you?
which I regret now.
Mm.
But at the time, no regrets. But at the
Mm.
time, there was lots of legislation changes, and the council were asking for lots of money, and they wanted me to change various things. I just, to be honest, because I wasn't a huge landlord, I couldn't afford to do it. I just couldn't afford to. So
Mm.
I sold them, and did something else with that. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm
You've got a bit of
aware of,
experience with it, yeah.
yeah, a little bit of experience.
Mm. I think, yeah, we don't want to get into it too much. But what
No.
I also like the idea of when it comes to co-living, and this is something we're exploring, I'll be honest about it because we've got it on social media anyway. We're turning a 3 bed into a 6 bed, and we
Yeah.
are making each room as self-contained as possible with an ensuite and kitchenette. And it's creating affordable housing as
Yeah.
well. And I think there's such a problem. I mean, in the UK as well as in Australia, like the cost of living, and people just not being able to afford to live in areas that they'd love to live in. And so they're moving
Mm,
further and further out, which means they're traveling further to get into work, if they work in the city or wherever it may be. And
yeah.
I think, yeah, there's definitely something in that. And I think it's always worthwhile exploring, like we said, different strategies when it comes to property investing. So I think
Yeah.
that's really cool. And thanks for sharing a little bit about that too. I mean, you may have sold them in the past, but you've got the experience to hopefully find something here in the Suffolk area. And I'll be interested to hear how you're going with that, just because I'm also doing the co-living or HMO thing
Yeah.
as well over
Yeah.
here. So it'll be really interesting for us to keep chatting and see. I'm going to pick your brain after this, out of this
Okay.
podcast, out of this
Okay.
podcast. Yeah. So, is there sort of, if you had someone coming to you, approaching you, maybe messaging you in your inbox, maybe you've had this already, asking you the question of, what sort of advice would you give to someone starting out in Airbnb? What would you say, and what would you encourage them to do in terms of first steps and all the rest of it?
Um, I think there'd be two things. One is, I think I said before, is just to go at your own pace.
Yeah,
don't
that's
run before you can walk, and just take the time to learn things. And then just make sure you're set up compliance wise. That was a really big thing that I wanted to make sure that I was all straight on all of those things. I set the business up properly. I had all my business bank account sorted out, so I knew that all my ducks were in a row. That way I was all organized. So maybe three things. And I think don't get fixated on little things. So for instance, my husband and I were just going back and forth about the name of our business for so long, and I'm not joking, we wasted so much time on it. In the end, I was just like, it doesn't matter if Lux has an E on the end or it doesn't. Like, it doesn't really matter.
yeah.
I mean, it does matter what you call your business, obviously, from a branding perspective, but
It's just
just don't
interesting
spend
how much time you can end up
too
spending
much
on.
time.
Yeah, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, there's more important things to focus on here than yeah.
Yeah, or just come back to it. Just if you can't
Yeah.
figure something out, just come back to it. Don't
Mm,
sort of stress out about it.
mm.
Because I did that over a lot of things. And I wish I just chilled out a little bit more and enjoyed the process.
But you live and you learn, so it's like, and
Yeah.
for like when you're just starting out, it's always like that. But then, yeah, you just once you've got that nailed, then it's like, okay, next property, and you're
Yeah.
good. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
everything set up. Yeah, that's really great advice. Thanks for sharing that. Some really good tips and advice there from Joanne Gardiner of Lux Local Homes. And I pulled out my phone. I hope no one heard the background noise, but I wanted to jump on one of those questions that we had come in from Instagram, which is really cool. And I hope that anyone watching this, I'll try to remember to put that question poll thing out, whatever it's called, on Instagram, and hopefully get some more questions for future guests as well. But I tagged you in one. I don't
Oh,
know if
okay.
you remember or if you
Oh
saw
yeah.
it.
Yes, I did. I did.
Yeah. So I tagged you, and hopefully, you'll be able to answer this one. I just found it now, and it is someone asked, how do you know if a location is good for an Airbnb?
Okay. So I think there's lots of different things. So look at it from a tourist perspective, if it's close to any big attractions or a beach or a city centre or something like that. If it's close to where any festivals are happening, events, that's always a good location. Conference centres, hospitals, universities, city towns are really, really good as well, because you get that influx of students and people coming to visit them, students, visiting surgeons for hospitals. Um, yeah, I mean, always sort of somewhere from a tourist perspective. So, for instance, Brighton, somewhere like that's going to be excellent because people are always going to visit Brighton. You've got the beach, you've got an amazing shopping centre, and yeah, I think there's lots of different things, but there's got to be some main attraction happening.
Yeah, that's true. That's great. That's yeah, such a great answer. Do you think you've got it in you to answer one more?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Let's go with this one. Oh, I don't know if this one would apply to you though, because it's not a rental arbitrage. It was, how do you get past letting agents screening questions? Would you ever do rental arbitrage, do you think?
Yeah,
Rental to
definitely.
let?
Yeah, we've spoken to some landlords around here, and yeah, the screening questions, I had that actually not long ago because a landlord said to me, how long have you been in business? And I was like, well, the sort of rent to rent, the rental business has only been running for like sort of 8 months. And he's like, oh no, we just can't take you on. I said, well, I've been in property for like 20 years. Um, and that didn't seem to sort of wash with them. But I think it's about building relationship at the end of the day with letting agents,
100%.
isn't it? And it's getting that
Yeah.
first. It's not going in there and being like, I don't know, just presenting what you do and talking just about business. It's about building that relationship with
Yeah.
them over time,
Yeah.
building rapport, and then coming in with what you do and being interested in what they do and solving problems for them. I think that's where you should start with that. I don't know if that's the right
Yeah.
answer, but that's what I do.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty good advice. And like, I always try to think back to how we did it, but this is not a coaching session. But it's someone who's asking the question
Yeah.
genuinely, and yeah, I think you couldn't have said it any better. It is all about relationship, and you can't just go in there all guns blazing because you just want a property to get started, and you start making your money. Not the best approach. And like you said,
No.
it is about building relationship, about building rapport.
Yeah.
And I think what helps is for those eager beavers who just want to go out and find something, I think I would advise, I heard someone, Adolfo, I think it was Adolfo and Stevie I interviewed before. They're from Northern California, and he said he just attended an open home. So it was a property advertised for rent, and he just went along to the actual open home. I was like, oh, that's an interesting approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I can see
probably
that
a
can
kind of a
work.
good way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the landlord was doing the open home. So I was like, oh, well, that was convenient for you because it's usually the agents. And then he just struck up a conversation with the landlord and eventually alluded to the fact that, he runs a management company, and he was able to get his first property by
Yeah.
attending
See,
this
that's great, isn't it? What a
open
great
home. Yeah.
story.
Yeah. I'm like, that's one way to do it. So, yeah, well done, Adolfo and Stevie. And I think, have you been in any sessions with them, in any
I
coaching
don't
sessions? Because they're
think
coaches as well.
so. I don't think I've met those guys. No,
Yeah,
not
so
yet.
maybe they're more for the US students, but
Mm.
they've got, I think they're like on track for 10 properties. They do
Wow.
houses, rental arbitrage model, and with the goal of reaching, I think, a total of 20 by the end of this year.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, all power to them. So,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know,
What a goal. And
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, I think good on them. So, who knows, like what's next and what opportunities are going to come your way. And, I'm excited for you to see
Thank you.
where this all goes and how you continue to build out your property portfolio. And and like I said, we'll keep talking about the co-living stuff as well.
Sure. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
It's definitely good to bounce ideas off someone.
Yeah, definitely. So in closing, is there any sort of final words from the Joanne Gardiner when it comes to some Airbnb advice or anything you want to say?
Just get stuck in if you're thinking about it. Just go for it. I definitely think it's the way forward in terms of property strategy for the future, for where we are right now in the UK for sure.
That's interesting. Yeah, interesting you say that for sure. I think if we were to go into that a little bit, what would you say is the reason for that?
I think there's so many different regulations that are coming in for landlords, certainly with the current government. I'm not an expert on it, but that's the reason why I got rid of my long-term tenants in my houses and went down this road. Yeah, and I think it's just more profitable. There's
And
a lot of profit you can make from this
yeah,
once you've got everything in place.
yeah, it's definitely a great cash flow
Yeah,
model. Yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely it can be seasonal at times, but it is also dependent on a lot of factors like location and how you're managing it. And
yeah, and it all balances out. Well, I say it's always going to be fine, but it generally does balance out, doesn't it? If you have a fantastic summer, then you might have a not so great winter, but that's okay. You
yeah,
just sort of balance it out, and
and
it's
manage it.
definitely worth it, worth the plunge.
Yeah. Well, Joanna, this has been such a great conversation with you, and thank you for all your wisdom and guidance and advice shared for anyone watching this who are considering starting, their own Airbnb or turning their maybe properties that they own into an Airbnb. So, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So, this has been Behind the BNB with your host, Steph Murphy, and I can't wait to release this episode and just have people be able to hear your story and your background and just how this has all unfolded for you and continuing to unfold. And look forward to just seeing the journey continue to go from strength to strength for you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Steph.